live, and well, we are live, and I'm so excited about this evening. Brad Klausen, we all know him and love him from all the artwork he has done across so many of our favorite bands. His art has been seen everywhere, and just like my other favorite Brad said, did Brad do the lettering? No, actually, this lettering and artwork I found online from my little graphic design website to throw up here, but that's interesting because I did this with Brad in mind because I'm like, this looks like something Brad would do. So, I'll take that. But listen, I am so excited, Brad. I've said this to you in the past, and I'll say it again. I own more art of yours than any other artist out there. I've always admired your work based off of your creativity and the detail. And like I said, I mean, with the crossover from Pearl Jam and then so many other great bands I listen to, it is an absolute honor to have you here on the Touring Fan Live.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to talk about art and to talk about this whole sort of weird little niche of the world,
This is a weird little niche of a world for sure. I didn't know when I started talking to people and bring this show together that I started interviewing different people like that. The majority of the most popular episodes tend to be around artists because you do have these like cult following of people that just live and die on an artist's like artwork. And I really believe that like your artwork in general does have that cult following. Not like cult like Charles Manson cult, I would hope not, but I mean cult following. Yeah. The cult following, that they just appreciate like what you're putting into your art.
Yeah, I'm moving to Spawn Ranch in a little bit, and I got some girls, and we're gonna have a whole cult. Yeah.
I was told I'm not allowed to talk about the bodies in the closet. You remember that was the one thing.
Yeah, it's part of our agreement, the NDA. Yeah.
No, it's wild, man. Like, I was just telling you before we went live, like I had to go through my flat file because I'm moving in a couple of years. And for an insurance purpose, I had to go through my stuff and had to write a list. And I was doing it in Microsoft Word, and it was putting everything in alphabetical order. And I didn't realize how much of your art I had. Like, I have a shit ton, and most of it is framed, but I do have some stuff that, we'll have to find wall space at some point. And, a lot of your art that I have on the wall, brings meaning to me. And what I love about it is, how it brings me back to that moment. And then, the new thing is, for instance, one of your pieces that I always dig deep into is the Temple of a Dog piece from Philly. First of all, one of my favorite concerts of all time. But two, there's just haunting imagery, and I feel like I'm in the woods in that, and it's just the detail and structure. It's just, I don't know, it's the production quality and how people put art together always amazes me, and your work always astounds me. So it's just mind blowing that you can do it.
I agree. I'm oftentimes sort of there's numerous times when I have to start working on a poster, if I haven't been, there's periods of time we were talking about where things get kind of busy when lots of bands are touring and you're just doing one poster after the other. And so you're just sort of in the zone of that muscle memory of just constantly having to make something. Oh, shaking my screen. But there's times where there's down times when I haven't made a poster, let's say in a month or something, or there's some, usually in the winter time, there's bands aren't as touring as much. And I'll have to take out some of the previous posters and just lay them out and remind myself that I've done this before. There's moments before I have to start working on something. How do I do this? How do I even make this stuff? And I have to talk myself off the ledge and be like, you've done this a zillion times before. Just remember how to do it. So I think even to myself, there's times where I don't know how to do what I'm supposed to do. And then I do the same thing. I look at other artists' work and I'm like, how are they doing this? How are they making this? Where are they getting these ideas? The technical skill and then the conceptual skill too. So I think that's one of the amazing things about human beings is that, we all have this ability to do something that's just super inspiring to each other, be it art, be it athletics, be it, anything, be it, I'm blown away at people that can cook food. That's such an art form. And it's something that I have not very much interest in, but I've had my girlfriend's family was just here for the holiday and stuff like that, and I've never eaten so well. And so even that idea that people can make food and that we can just be inspiring to each other is one of those amazing aspects of being a human being, is just how talented and capable we can be when whatever the thing is that you're into, or whatever the thing that you just have a natural predisposition for, a passion for, we can do things that are, as much as it's fun to watch fail videos on YouTube, it's fun to watch win videos where you see just the achievements of human beings, and or especially if they're like gymnasts and they're doing a gazillion parkour people that are just twirling and spinning and flipping and doing all these things, where it really makes you see how the potential of human beings for all the things that we can do. So it's fun to be able to also to get like some appreciation for those things too. And so it's crazy to me that there's people out there that even have my artwork at all, or that it's hanging on a wall someplace.
Well, I think the one thing that I love about, and the reason I even started doing the show originally, was like I always I'm fascinated by the idea of how people do things. Like, where does that idea and thought process come from? How did you put that all on paper? How was that song created? What intricacies? I can barely speak. But how does it all come to? There you go. How does it all come together to produce the work that's being out there, whether it be art or even food or music in general, because it's something I can't do. Like, I'm good at I'm halfway decent at this. I'm halfway decent at graphic design, and I can build a home theater like no other. But beyond that, that's my talent level. But when it comes to artists in general, it just amazes me how people can create something, and it's like its own world. I think that's one of the cool things about art in general is well, first of all, let's just in concert posters in general, or even your artwork in general, because I have that shark print that you did a couple of years ago, and that's hanging upstairs. But it's exciting.
Wait, when breaking up a little.
Oh, am I breaking up?
Just you said were you talking about the Virginia Beach shark poster?
Correct. Yes, and I have that framed upstairs.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's when you're looking at it, you get lost in this world of what it was, of the Phish and the surroundings of it, and it's beautiful, and it's and then you have other pieces that you've created, like your R&DM print that was the 4 pieces that came together to make that big piece.
Mm-hmm.
and it's all its own world too.
Yeah, I think that is one of those things when you think about like Tolkien or George Lucas or Matt Groening even, who've created entire worlds and it's interesting you say that about a print, a single individual image, but if you think about like I said, The Simpsons, there's the whole geography of the town. There's all the townspeople. In Star Wars, there's whole solar systems and races of beings, and those that's to your point. That's super amazing to me that George Lucas created a world that we all are almost we can inhabit it. We know the surroundings in a way. We know the architecture. We know the ecosystems of this or that. Totally fantastical, made up world. It is super impressive when you get to that level where you've created an entire universe of creativity that just came out of a few people's heads, or one person's head to begin with. It is a really amazing aspect of being able to make artwork. And to your point too, I think that's one of the things that I think about when I make concert posters is someone, when they look at this image, they're going to think back to the show. They're going to look at the image and they're going to see the date, and they're going to remember maybe waiting in line to get the poster. They're going to maybe remember the venue and that stuff. But it's almost like a psychological, Pavlovian trigger, where and that's I always think about that. I want to make something so that if it actually makes it out of the flat file and onto the wall and it's framed and somebody wants to spend money on it, you hope that's the idea in the seed that you kind of plant in the image is I want someone every time they look at this to have a good memory, to be like, oh, that show was amazing. They played this or that song, or that was my 20th time seeing the band or my first time seeing the band. So that is definitely a part of the thought process to try and encode, or at least to keep that in the back of your mind when I'm making the stuff, is that this needs to be something that triggers a memory, and then if you can make a cool image on top of that, because there's lots of people that'll buy a poster of the show just because they went to that show, but they maybe don't like the image, but they're like, that's the show where I was at and that's the poster. So when you can do that, when you can make an image that people really respond to, it just makes it that much more of a special thing, because at least they love the image and it ties them to the memory of the experience,
No, 100%. Robert just posted, that's exactly my feeling on the Neocon series. Takes me back to that time. You had mentioned something a little while ago, and it made me real curious about something. Because I know like Dan Mumford had talked about this in a previous interview he had done. When you're creating your artwork, are you creating that artwork as they're all like the pieces all work together in one system, like they're all in the same like world, or are they just individual pieces? Because looking across, I have got on the wall, like I'm looking at the Temple of the Dog print, I'm looking at the Boston print that you did, I'm looking at one of the Eddie Vedder prints, and they all have a very similar feeling, like they could work in like they're all from the same, I guess, world or universe of its own kind of sense.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something that, for like Robert's comment, like that Neocon set or the RNDM set, there are some that you do design so that they all work together, or like those two Temple of the Dog posters are supposed to kind of communicate and talk to each other. But there's never been like a grand scheme of all of them to try and tie them in, but it's all the same universe of my head, or like coming out of my head, or like Dan Mumford or Emick or any of that stuff. Like you're getting snapshots from our mental imagination. So it would make sense that there would be sort of a uniformity or kind of a familiarity to it, because it's all coming from the same inner world of each one of the artists, but it's funny that anytime I use stars for like a starry night, mm-hmm. I have like a pattern of stars, that's this big file of all these different stars, and I'll copy and paste them, and I take them out, and then sometimes I'll change them and I erase them and I add more stars. But my girlfriend, who was a graphic designer at some point too, will flip me shit, and she's like, "You need to make new stars. You need to come up with, those are the stars you used in all the other ones." I'm like, "Yeah, but the stars over our heads in real life are the same stars every night." And so it's sort of my way of being like, "Yeah, those are the stars of the posters in my poster universe," even though it's also a super lazy way of also reusing the same stars. It's just my crutch of saying like, but the stars above your head, they change, but it's always the same. Orion is the same Orion, and the Big Dipper is the same Big Dipper. Yeah, there's no. Now that you say that, I wish I had started every poster like some M. Night Shyamalan
movie.
Yeah, so that like each poster had some sort of connected thing over 13, 15 years, however long I've been doing that. That would be an artistic. That would be quite a concept piece, to make individual pieces of work seem like they're separate, but then if you some cue that all tied them all together or told a story or something like that. Now I'm feeling bad that I didn't start doing that in 2004.
If you start laying all the prints together, it's some sort of formation. It puts the Da Vinci Code out there. It gets the map of where everything is.
Did you see? Did you ever see the show Utopia?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they can't? Well, first of all, it aggravates me because I was so invested in that show, right? Like I was like first of all, I was lost in the first 3 episodes made no sense. I'm like, why are these people buying comic books? And then next thing you know, it ends. Then Amazon's like, yeah, we're not going to renew it. I'm like, with the biggest cliffhanger. I mean, such a great show.
But they had that in the comic pages all fanned out, and they all made sort of a shape or something like that. And that artist, I can't remember what his name is. I know it's Joao Rouse. It's got like umlauts over the O. I don't know how to say his name, but unbelievable artist. And that was such a cool part of that show, was getting to see all those all the artwork he made for those comic images. But now I'm bummed out that I hadn't done that. I hadn't included something in each one of my posters so that I could tie them through. Like I think Aaron Horkey has that, where he has like a thread, like a literal thread, like in a bird's mouth and stuff like that. And I think there is sort of that idea that thread is kind of tying them all together. So,
oh wow,
yeah. Jeez, but now I'm mad at myself.
Well, it's I mean, what? Because in 2004, so you're almost 20 years in the business. I mean, it's right around the corner, which is amazing because I mean, if you think about a lot of the artists have come and gone, it just shows you your staple in the community, or not even in the art world in general. You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I know you're going to totally disagree with this, and that's fine. Or if you
It's a good
agree with
setup.
it, I agree with it. I don't know how I'll take that either. But we'll just listen to me for a second. You know, people grow up and they go to art school and they admire like the Da Vinci's and the whatever artists out there. You name them, that's who they obtain to because that's where they grab their inspiration from and become their own artist. I'm 36 years old. You know, I really started getting heavily into art in the early 2000s. And while I appreciate like, Van Gogh and all those things because they are amazing, like the things that speak to me are the Justin Hamptons, the Clausens, the Emmix, all those pieces that were, big then, even Ames and things like that, because that is what I was tied to then. So speaking to people, and the other day, like someone had asked me a question about the show, I said, yeah, I feel like I'm talking to people like if back in the 1800s it'd be like someone talking to those artists because I'm thinking, maybe I'm naive to think this, that a lot of these pieces in 50, 60, 100 years from now are going to be looked at as memories and imagery to kind of incorporate times in the world and how they are bridged together. So I'm like, well, I appreciate those things, like these are what those are to other people. So I put you on a high pedestal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I see why you'd think I wouldn't agree with my lumping myself in with any of those people that you would have said, but um, it is it is really interesting when I think about the idea that as a fan of the whole grunge thing, like I was 14 when that all happened, 15 when that all happened, it affected me just like everybody else did at that time. And it's still never wasted on me that like some of my favorite bands and these people that I looked up to and that like sort of molded my adolescence and like got me through all those, when you're a teenager and you're trying to figure out who you are, or the world, or you're sort of coming online more when you're a teenager. You're paying more attention to politics and real things, and um, it's it's still crazy to me to think that some of the images and the artwork that I've made will live alongside the histories of those bands, be it far off. And the music is obviously the big thing, but somewhere still I'm like the in the last train car on their train. You get to be like, there's gets to be some of your imageries in the like the food gallery of their train, right? You get to at least have some sort of connection to that band for the rest of history, and so there's something about that that's still like, it's one of my favorite things. Like I love the Queens of the Stone Age, and I love that I get to have some part of my creativity just sort of kind of lassoed onto their train, and I just had it. It gets to like stay with them. So there's something cool about that aspect about making concert posters as opposed to say just any work of art that's going to last throughout the test of time. The fact that it's tied to this or that band is just such a cool aspect of this job, and it's one of my favorite things that you get to do, is to get to say like, I love this band, I love their music, and you're just honored to get to create something for them and hope that the fans get to like it. But then it's really a fun little perk of the job when you think of like that concert. Maybe there was some epic concert, like what was or like more recently for Pearl Jam, like that Moline show where they played all at 10 or whatever. And so that poster tied to that show, you get to be like, I did the art for that moment in history, And so there's that cool aspect of, you're not just making art because you want to make it, you're making something that's sort of stamping a date in time. And so in like the chronology of a band, if you go back to that thing, you have this little, in the playbill for that moment in time, you have your art's on the cover of it, So it's a cool part of the concert poster art world, is that it's not just you going, I having a gallery show in 2021 and come see all my recent artwork. If you're a big name, then that's obviously a big deal. But to get to just do things for these bands and know that it's going to live on in some part of their history somewhere in their, in their catalog of things that they've done, it's a really cool. It's something I love to be able to do, and I'm glad I sort of fell into this niche of concert posters, which Wasn't really the plan ever. It might have sort of in the background been the plan, but I knew I wanted to work for music, but I didn't know if I would get to do all these posters and that stuff. So it's, one of those, you don't find the way finds you kind of things.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a cool, like I said, it's a cool, weird little niche world of the concert poster and to get to get, like I was thinking of it like potluck, like all these artists get to bring food, and I always make the joke that I get to bring like brownies or something like that, and they'll be like, "Hey, Brad's brownies were pretty good. Have you tried those brownies?" Like, yeah.
Oh, no, that's great. Now, the last time we had spoke, we had talked about like the excitement level, like especially early on in your career, of how excited you would get to work with some of these bands and how excited it was to, come along. Now, we've talked about you're almost 20 years into this career. Do you still get as excited now as you did then to work on any kind of project of someone calling you up, or is it just kind of like it's such a job now that it's just like, hey, I enjoy doing it. Not saying that you don't enjoy it, not mundane for you, but are you still as excited now as you were in 2004?
I think to a degree, yes. I think probably in 2004 it was brand new, so it was just super exciting and uncharted waters, So there was that uncertainty and the newness to it, but I still get stoked. Like if I get an email from somebody and they're like, "Hey, if the Queens of the Stone Age, if I get an email and they're touring, or the Foo Fighters or Pearl Jam or any of these bands, or when I see a band that I like is touring, I'm like, I got to get on that tour. Like I want to do something, even if I've done something for them. That almost becomes now the part of it that's trickier, which is like for Pearl Jam, I'm always stoked to get a job for Pearl Jam, but then you go, well, shit, what am I going to do? Like I've gone through the catalog of songs so many times. Like, can I make a song? Can I make an image based off of this song? What about this song? And so that part is now that there's so much time into it. That becomes the tricky thing. You're like, well, I've done that already, or what am I going to do for this band that I haven't done because I've done 40 or 50 posters for them, or however many posters. But it's still exciting. I mean, it's still like if Radiohead or Tool were ever to ask me to do a poster for them, I'd be to the moon. I'd be just giddy and all excited. And so I think I still do get that same excitement. But now there's also the pressure of, I have to bring my A game. Like there's more people who've watched stuff over the years, and people can say things like, "Oh, Brad's work isn't as good as it was," or "This is better this year, that one's that year." So there's that added pressure of, okay, I gotta keep being good. I gotta keep trying to get on base. Like I think of it all the time, like baseball. Like you're like, oh, I got a double with that one. Or sometimes you strike out, but sometimes you hit a home run. Sometimes you hit a grand slam. So I always like getting to step up to the plate and see what I can do. So that excitement is still always there. And then when you add like the other artist in, and Ken Taylor's on the roster, and Emick and Todd Slater, and these just huge heavy hitters are going to be there. It's exciting and terrifying all at once, because you want to do really well, but you're up against some of the best in the game. So that part's exciting too. So it still has there's still like a thrill and an excitement to it. And then, like I said, anytime a band contacts you, just like, sweet, yeah, totally. And it's amazing that even people like, I reach out to bands to say like, hey, I see you're touring, I'd love to do something. And then sometimes they reach out to me. And when somebody just cold calls you out of the blue and it's like, hey, I saw your work and we want to work with you, that's always the greatest thing, because you're like, I didn't even know anybody was paying attention to this at all. So it's a fun job, especially if you're a fan of music, which I think most poster designers are, and that's why you get into it, because you love music. So
You had just mentioned something that I've always wanted to ask somebody, but I didn't know how to bring it up, so I'm just going to ask it straight out. You had mentioned reading some of the comments people posted, and that, like, do you actually read like how people feel about your artwork, whether it's positive or negative?
yeah, I mean, like there's I know some people, like bands and people, and like Joe Rogan will say things like, don't read the comments and that sort of stuff. And I think for this particular thing, for making concert posters where I'm making them, 8 or 10 in a year, or 12, however I might make in the course of a year. And some artists are far more prolific than I am. You want that feedback, right? You want to know, like, oh, did did I do this well? Are people responding to it? What don't they like about it? What is it about this one that, and it's an ego stroke also, and that, oh, this is fantastic, this is great, and you get to pat yourself on the back, that people like what you're doing, but it also helps inform, like, why did somebody like this? Why is this print selling more than the other one? Or what did people, and because you, like I said, you want people to like the artwork, you want them to be stoked on it, and you want them to be happy about it. So I do read the reviews, one, because I want someone to tell me I'm good and give me an A+ on the paper. There's that Simpsons episode where schools are on strike and Lisa's just she's freaking out because she's just grade me, I'm ever so good, and her mom just writes A+ on a paper and she calms down. Like, I think all the artists have that to some degree, where you want to be told that and validated that all the time and energy that you put in this thing, people like it, and they respond to it. I mean, you can make art for the sake that you want to make it for you and not care at all what anybody else thinks. And there's plenty of that. There's plenty of artists and musicians and stuff like that. But I want people to like the poster. I want them to be happy when they go to the show, and I want them to be like, dude, I had a great time at the show. The poster image is great. I want to frame it. I want to put it on my wall. And if the response is meh, or not feeling this one or that thing, like, it's a bummer and it's a drag, but it makes you kind of be like, okay, well, what didn't work, or what wasn't, you just want it helps you get better. There's constructive criticism. There's people who just say, like, sucks, or this is lame, or it's bad, but if somebody can be like, if they can actually tell you why they don't like it, or it's busy, or it's this, that, or the other thing, like, that you might be like, well, fuck what these people think, I'm going to make whatever I want to make. But it does help you understand what works and what doesn't work. And I think when I was working for Pearl Jam and doing posters, I was much more free with my concepts because I had a paycheck. My day-to-day job was working for Pearl Jam, and I was getting paid, and any money I could make selling posters was just gravy. So I felt very, and I was idealistic and younger. I felt very free to make whatever art I wanted to, and I didn't care if somebody was going to respond to it, if they didn't like it, because it didn't matter if it sold. But then once I became freelance and working for myself, I was like, I can't do that anymore. I need to really start, if I want to make money and be successful and just pay the bills, just be able to do this independently on my own and not fail at it. I need to be much more aware that if there's some image of bloody politicians like the neocon set, some people might want to hang that on their wall. Some people might. I was making a political statement with that and speaking my mind, but are you going to put that up on your wall and have it be something? Some people, yes, not everybody, right? So it does change how you approach how I approach the job, because I want people to be stoked. I want them to dig it, and I don't want to just sit there and be like, well, I think it's really cool, so I don't care what you all think. I mean, I know when I've done stuff that's good, that I'm proud of, and sometimes it doesn't get the response that I think it deserves. But that's just to each his own. It's just everybody has their own personal taste in that stuff. But I do take that information in and be like, okay, well, that didn't work, and so why didn't it work? And so I do want to see the comments, negative or positive. I want to know, if you're a musician, you release an album and Rolling Stone gives you a crappy review, that's one person. You can sit there and be like, well, that person's an idiot. They don't know what they're talking about. They've never made a record. Who are they to say? But if you can get like a spattering of comments in social media or on message boards or that stuff, you can kind of gauge the overall what people are thinking rather than just one person's opinion. So it's helpful in that sense. And I do like seeing what people say, even though there's times where it stings a little if people don't like it,
Yeah, well, I think that's like the downside to like what's going on nowadays. Like, everyone has the ability to have a voice on, to a positive and a negative side of things, and sometimes people just can be so negative to be just absolutely fucking negative, and it's just it's almost disgusting, because I mean, like, to me, art's interpretive. There's one Pearl Jam in particular that I adore. That I remember it went, and it's not one of yours, by the way, but it got ripped apart like shit because people were like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't blah 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 blah, and I'm like, Yeah, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean you need to be a dick about it either. Like,
Right.
like you said, like this is, it's your bread and butter. Like, this is what you're paying your bills. And, some people can be, can say things and people can interpret it. Oh, well, then I don't want it either. And then it could affect, people's bottom line. I don't know, that shit bothers me. I just don't.
Yeah. No, but that's I mean, it almost makes me think about, like, do you remember when, like when the Cats movie came out, or the trailer for the Cats movie with all and then like, the Will Smith Aladdin movie where he was blue, and they released the trailers, and then the comments, so the movie doesn't come out, and the comments just ripping it to shreds, right? And
Yeah.
that would eventually make you so you wouldn't go see the movie. You'd be like, oh, before the movie even come out, people are going, this looks stupid. Oh my God. And they're mocking it and they're making fun of it. And like, there could be that element of where you've now just, all these people spent all this time on this movie, and before it's even come out, just based on the trailer, the comment section has just destroyed it, And I think I think I heard stories, I don't know if it's true, but that some of like YouTube's, that movie production companies wanted to be able to censor comments on trailers, because they're like, exactly what they're cutting into our bottom end. Like, we need to make
Sure.
money on this movie, and the trailer is. And before the internet, if we all saw a trailer that looked ridiculous, maybe you talk about it at work and no one goes to see it, but you didn't have this like viral moment. There's something go viral where everyone's like, Will Smith is blue, this looks stupid, and it's and the other thing too is weird, which is, like, because of social media, because of like Instagram and Facebook and that stuff, it's really weird as an artist that you can put up your work on what would be sort of your gallery, right? Your platform, and then people can come and shit on it. Like it's my brother-in-law had used the analogy where it's like, if you had a gallery, like a gallery show, and you don't like something in the gallery doesn't have to provide you a piece of paper to write down what you don't like about it, right? But the comment section in social media is, you're opening the door into your own gallery of your work, and people get to post right next to that work whatever the hell they want to say, and they should be free to say whatever they want to say. Be free to say whatever you want, be critical, and to hate on something. But why do I have to let you do it in my house? why do I have to let you write on my wall that you think this is terrible, this is crappy? It's one of the parts of social media that I think is sort of a drag. Like, feel free, go on any message board, go any place, talk as much trash as you want, to say what you want. But like, why do I have to let you come scribble graffiti on my house and be like, sucks, stupid, or whatever, So that part of the social media thing is an unfortunate aspect where the critics get to basically graffiti your gallery.
Yeah, there was an interesting, talking about movies in general, but there was an interesting YouTube video that came out a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about how they showed like 5 movies, and for the life of me I can't think of them. It was 5 movies that 5 trailers had came out on, and all 5 movies, the studios were iffy about how they were going to be portrayed by the general public, just for the fact that they didn't think they were going to do well. And like 3 of them, the trailers were put out a year before, and they got ripped apart online, and they did terrible at the box office. And the other 2 were released shorter, which, if you've realized lately, a lot of movies, the trailer comes out and the movie comes out almost month, 2 months down the road. Kind of like if you think about the latest Suicide Squad, the most recent trailer. The trailer that really came out, the first full trailer only came out like 30 days ago. The movie comes out next month. And it's because back in the day, I remember you used to get a movie. You could be like, "Hey, coming out in 2 years. Here's a movie." With the teaser and stuff. We don't really see that anymore. It's because it's less ability for people to rip it apart. It's scary.
But it's and it's like I said, it's one thing if people, like I said, if somebody can sit there and that's why sometimes if somebody has a really biting comment, but it's true. That's why that's when when somebody reacts, I mean, basically you've triggered them or you stung them. That nerve is open. That's usually when you can realize, be like, okay, my reaction to this means that they're probably right. There's probably something they're saying. I'm getting bothered by this because there's some truth to what they're saying, and you can kind of come down from being upset by that and be like, I think I saw that too, and just now that someone's vocalizing it, it pisses me off because I thought this. I was like, I shouldn't have done that way, or this, that, the other thing. But when people just say like stupid or this sucks, or they don't, that's the stuff where you're just like, well, that's And then the hard part of that too is there is this weird thing where if you are getting a lot of attention or a lot of people praising you, inevitably the sort of nonconformist person is like, well, if everybody likes this thing, I'm going to say I don't like it because everybody likes it, and so I'm just going to shit on it for the sake of shitting on it. And so that to me would be the definition of a hater. And I always think it's weird that people will talk about whenever somebody has criticism and their response is like, well, you're just a hater. Like, just because you hate somebody, though, it doesn't make your criticism invalid. You could hate somebody and be spot on with your criticism and see like, and be like, I can't stand that guy for X, Y, and Z reason. I hate that dude or that band or this artist, and you can nail him and you can rip him to shreds, And so, just because somebody is a hater doesn't mean they don't have valid points. But to me, the idea of like what a hater would be online is someone who just, for the sake of not going with the group, is just being like, oh, this is the popular band that everybody loves. It's like when people say they don't like the Beatles. I'm like, if you don't like the Beatles, then you don't like music. Then you just don't appreciate. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't listen to them every day. I don't listen to the Beatles. They're not getting a lot of heavy rotation. But anytime a Beatles song comes on, it's fantastic music. Mm-hmm. It's truly great, wonderful music. And anybody who says they don't like it is just doing it to be contrarian. It's just doing it to be like, nah, or like, I don't like the Beatles. And so that element of art criticism is sort of that comes with any territory where there's just inevitably people who go, oh, what's the thing everybody loves and thinks is cool? I think it's stupid, and just to be that person,
It's just people being difficult to be difficult is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, I think the internet has been a very bizarre social experiment, and when you think about talk about 20 years or something like that, think the internet is so new, and this ability, like social media, is so new. How old is Twitter and Facebook and just even comment sections, and there's going to be a period of time where we look back in 100 years and 200 years at this beginning period of time, and people are going to be like, holy cow, look at how insane people became because of this new technology that basically gave every single human being a voice. It gave everybody the ability to broadcast to the planet whatever crazy, insane thing that they want to broadcast. It's we're at that moment where, it's been said before, but it's like when, 4 out of 5 doctors suggest Marlboro Lights. There's doctors smoking cigarettes, or like you watch the old footage of the news, and the news guys are smoking cigarettes. Everyone's smoking cigarettes. Yeah. So and then we go, oh wait, that's cancerous, and there's enough time had passed where the development of that behavior started, come with the roosters, the chickens started to come home to roost. So I feel like at some point with all this internet and social media and all the outrage and everybody speaking their mind, there's going to be 50 years from now where we're like, oh, there was massive problems from that behavior and from our infatuation with all of this new technology.
Well, it was interesting this morning. I was listening to Sirius XM, and it was an old episode on the Jim and Sam show, and they were talking to what is that really smart guy that knows everything about space?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Thank you. And he was talking about how people that carry hate or carry problems on themselves actually age themselves much quicker, and that you'll see people that are extremely negative and that don't give like just this like don't hold anger in and stuff of that, they typically look younger as they get older. You typically live happier lives and they live longer in general. And what they're finding is, and what he was saying is that these people, it's harder on a life to hold that hate in and to think about it all the time than it is to like move on from it. And that social media, because you're on there all the time and you're always looking at things, and there's always that social media really is like almost a dramatic effect, because you're always digging in to like either make yourself feel better about something, like, oh, look at this friend from high school, and look, he was popular then, but like stupid shit to make yourself feel better. But
right.
That really is like not good for you. And he was saying that like he thinks that like at some point, if you look at countries that don't have social media in retrospect to like, or there's a cap on it in retrospect to what America has, they're living happier lives and doing more than what people with social media have. And it was an interesting conversation this morning about like how it aged people and really like turned people into something that they didn't want to be. So it's crazy to think that, for sure.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I think the internet sort of incubated and trained people how to be hateful and rude and shitty in real life. I feel like if you think of the sort of the arc of where we've gotten from with the internet, originally you wouldn't put your real name to anything. You would use an avatar. Everybody's like, I'm not putting my name on something online. I'm not going to be public and announce who I am and stuff like that. But then with social media and stuff, it became, you had your name, your face is there, your everything about you is there. And then, but before when you were working under anonymity, when you're working under an alias, or you're just posting on a random comment section somewhere, you could say the most hateful, horrible things you wanted to, that you would never say to somebody's face. You could sit there and type and be like, you know what? I don't like this or that race, or I don't like this or that, sex, or this or that, whoever. You could just be the most hateful person in the world. And you sort of had a simulator where you got to vent and get all that stuff out, and it trained you almost in a way and you're online, you're constantly speaking your mind, to then now people feel comfortable. They felt so comfortable for years being crappy to each other online that they go out into the real world. And now they're not as willing to, like, maybe in the past you wouldn't have confronted the person, you would have kept it to yourself. But now everybody's been practicing by typing out their rage, that when they get face to face with people, they're now far more willing to mix it up and to say things to somebody's face. And I feel like the internet has trained us all to become assholes, to just be sort of shittier in person, not in person, face to face, not just behind an avatar, or safely behind a computer on the other side of the world. Now people go to each other face to face, and like, it's almost like the internet was the sparring or the gym, and now we've gotten comfortable being like, I'm not going to let these people say this thing to me. I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to talk. I'm going to say this to people. So it's and when you think too about, like, to your point about, like, I was thinking about this because I'm so bad with social media, and you offered some help with that sort of thing and stuff like that. But I was thinking, like, I've set up an Instagram account, I think 2 or 3 times. And each time I've noticed it gets to, like, I make like 12 posts.
Yep.
It's just like, 4 squares, 4 rows of 3 squares. And that's like my saturation point, where then I stop I stop being interested in it. And I was trying to wonder why, and I was like, oh, and I think of it as like a pain in the butt too. I'm like, oh, I should post something on Instagram. I should do something. And it's absolutely ridiculous that I'm not more interested in it, because my career is going to be, the more people that are paying attention to my work, the more people I can communicate to. It's far better. And there's artists out there that do a phenomenal job with promotion and all that stuff. But it's this weird aspect where I don't like to take photos of people. Like, I don't have photos of my family up. I'm sure if I had kids, it would be different. I'd probably be taking pictures of my kids all the time. But, like, I don't take photos. I don't look at other people's photos. But that's sort of what we're doing, is we're just constantly taking videos and photos, and then looking at other people's videos and photos of their life or what they've been doing. And it's a really weird aspect of society that we're just sort of, and I don't know what it says about human beings, that we like photos. We like taking pictures of people. We like being in pictures. We like looking at other people's pictures. Think about, you go to the concert, everybody's filming.
Yeah.
Everybody's filming the concert. And then the thing, I've said this before, is like, I'll then go on, when I'm working on a Pearl Jam poster or a poster for any band, I'll play a live show just so I can get into that headspace. Like, okay, this is what it's like at this concert, And so I'm grateful that somebody has filmed that. I'm really glad that somebody filmed that concert, some Tool concert or something, and I get to see it 2 days later or later that night, But it's just a weird aspect of human beings. I was thinking about today, what is our obsession with photos, with taking pictures, with like the selfie, and just my sister takes a gazillion pictures of my nephew, of her son, and like, you could probably, from any kid that was born during iPhones or smartphones, you could probably track their whole growth over their parents' photos. You could be like, this is them from 0 to 18, and do one of those things where they morph their head all the way through, and you're like, this is your whole life as you've grown up. I've had photos of every single moment and then some. Like, it's interesting to me that we seem to be fascinated with being in photos, with taking photos, and then looking at other people's photos. It's bizarre.
It is. There's a couple things that you're tying that it's going to tie into a lot of things based off your stories. One of a Brad that we both know. I don't know if you know the name Brad Lang, but he says, still one of my favorite message board moments was when Brad, you went on to BRY after the Easy Street show and ran into a bunch of trolls until they realized who he was. So that's one of his favorite moments. And then he did have a question. He said, so Nickelback might actually be good. That interpretation, I'll let you guys all decide that.
Yeah, Canadians. Go figure.
That's right. That's right. Talking about, you said you do about 8+ prints a year, and with, this past year, and we know that you had the 2 Pearl Jam prints for the tour that was postponed that came out, which I absolutely loved. I own them.
Oh, thank you.
What I really dig about them too is like there is this feeling of like going into the print, like definitely with like the waterfall feature. It just feels like it almost feels like the depth to it. That's a lot of your prints. It's just like it's just a really cool, beautiful. The color scheme. I really dug it. But my question to you is, as an artist who heavily depends on art and your work to be out there, what did you have to do during the pandemic to really continue to live a comfortable life?
Fortunately, going into 2020, I had every year that I've been freelance, so since 2008, it's feast or famine. Some years are feast, some years are famine, and you just try and get through each year, and you just be like, okay, made it through that year, paid all my rent, paid my mortgage for that year. Let's see if I can do it again. It's like, if you're gonna ask me if I have a 5-year plan, I don't. My 5-year plan is like, I hope I get through 2020, and then we'll see how 2021 goes. We'll see what bands are touring, and some years are great and some years are not. And then also, like December, January, February are kind of notoriously slow. Bands aren't always touring. They do tour sometimes in the wintertime, but usually they don't. And so usually towards, November, I've learned over the years that I need to make sure I have enough money saved up to cover that gap, that 3-month sort of period where maybe I won't have jobs. And Emic has said the same thing. It's funny where like you go through those moments of that dry spell where you're like, I'm never going to have a job ever again. No one's ever going to hire me. And he was saying that his wife at the time had said, he does this every time, and it happens every dry spell. You're like, no one's ever going to hire me ever again. I'm never going to have jobs. I don't have any money coming in. But so some years I'm able to pad that. I know I'm like, okay, I'm not going to have enough money. Going into 2020, I had money in the bank, and I was just like, okay, I've got like 6 months of money in the bank. 2020, I had that Pearl Jam tour was announced at the beginning. Like we got the announcement for the tour stuff really early on. And that's just a sigh of relief when there's a Pearl Jam tour. You're just like, okay, like when 2020 started, it's like my year's covered. Like I had a certain number of posters I was going to do, and I was like, that's going to cover my year and probably going into the next one. And then it all just got stripped away and taken away. And I went from going, I've told this somewhere else before, but I went from going, hey, I got 6 months of money in the bank for 2020 to, oh no, I only have 6 months of money in the bank, and there's no jobs coming in, and weirdly enough, the unemployment programs that they had for people like myself that are independent and workers, the unemployment was super helpful. Like I applied for that, and it took months and months and months to get it. And my whole opinion was always like, I'm not destitute. There's people with families who have multiple mouths to feed. Maybe they're working 2 jobs, 2 minimum wage jobs. They just lost them both. I'm not going to be pushy and worry about unemployment, but I filed for it, and months and months went by, and they're like, sure, they approved for it. And that was extremely helpful. And that's one of the few times I feel like I'm 45. I feel like in my life that the government actually came through and sort of helped people, and it worked. And it was such a unbelievable clusterfuck. I imagine at every unemployment office across not only the U.S. but probably in every country everywhere. And those poor people were working like night and day, constantly trying to make sure that people could get some money and do stuff. So I don't think those people probably get thanked nearly enough for having to deal with people that are probably screaming at them on the phone. Where's my check? Where's this? My family needs food. We don't have groceries, this, that, the other thing. So I think at some point when this is all over, we should have like a parade or a salute to all those poor people who had to work on answer customer service for unemployment.
Yeah, we're live again. Okay. Well, that's it. That is a first. Never in the history of this show have I had a power outage that flickered everything off and then shut us down, but I apologize about that.
It's because it's the man trying to shut us down. We're talking about too much serious stuff.
Yeah, who would have thought that this show would have turned into a whole serious show? Well, that was not what I was expecting, but I've thoroughly
we could switch over to like we can switch over to fart jokes and stuff if you wanted to or something.
Well, as I was thinking about the pandemic and everything, a lot of us dug into, like, we had to like start new things, so we had all this free time. Now, like, what did you do during the pandemic that was different that you normally wouldn't have time to do?
I played a ton of guitar. I got sort of super deep into playing my guitar and getting a new amp, and then having an unfortunate resurgence of a obsession with guitar pedals kick back in, and I just started playing guitar, and I've been playing guitar off and on for years, and within the last 4 or 5 years, my girlfriend was bartending for the longest time, 4 nights out of the week, and so she'd leave to go bartending, and I'd have my whole house empty, and so I'd just crank my amp and just play guitar, and then I was doing that for a few years, and then once the Corona showed up, I was just home. We did a ton of like landscaping. We're in the yard. It was in the summertime. We got a ton of work done on the house. It was great. But playing guitar was I think at some point I've been debating if I'm going to like start a dumb YouTube channel and just start live broadcasting when I'm practicing, or just playing stuff just for shits and giggles, just to do it. Probably won't be very good, but but then I started playing. I went out and do you know Regan Hagar?
I do.
From Drummer and Brad, and he would do design work for Pearl Jam too. Him and I are friends, and he's a good drummer. And I asked him if he ever would want to listen to any of the riffs that I have, and he was like, "Sure, come on, let's play some of them." And we played one time, and then a year went by, and we hadn't played again. I said, "Hey, we should do that again." And he said, "Sure, come down." And we played and jammed for a little bit, and then his bandmates showed up to practice, and his bandmates are this band called Fires, which had Sean Smith in it as well. And I played like with them for like 3 different times, and I haven't played in a band in probably 15 years or something like that. And it just rekindled my love of live music and playing music. And for anybody out there who's a Sean Smith fan, I don't know, they played for me when we were in their rehearsal space 2 of the albums that Fires had recorded, and there's some of Sean's songs in there, and it's so good. I was like, how is this not on the radio? And unfortunately, because Sean passed away, Ty Wildman is also a singer in the band, and he could sing all those Sean Smith parts too. So hopefully, at some point, all that music that Fires has put out will come out, because it's really, really good. But that was it. Play guitar, and I think I'm really hopeful, because I'm probably playing better than I've ever played, and it's been just like a love affair. Like, I've fallen in love with playing loud stoner rock and cranking my amp up super, super big, and it's been sort of one of the blessings of the whole experience, is that it's just made me fall in love with playing guitar again.
It's interesting you had mentioned Sean Smith and like radio air. I've always thought that Sean Smith never got the recognition that he deserved, because he was such an absolutely amazing singer. And it wasn't until later in his life that I learned about him. But man, I mean, that man could sing his ass off like no other.
Definitely a unique tone too. Like his voice is a very unique tone, and it's crazy when you think about how many good male vocalists have come out of the Seattle scene. I mean, when you think about some of the best male rock vocalists, Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, Lane Staley, like those are some of the all-time best rock. When they had that tribute show for Mad Season at Benaroya Hall, and they had, Chris came out and sang some songs, but then they had a couple other, some of Mike's friends, like Kim Virant and some other people came out. And it wasn't until that show where I realized how there's nobody that has the range that Lane had. And because you'll be listening to the songs and they're singing the song, and you're like, there's a really big note coming up in this song. Like, you'd be like, there's some big Lane sustain note coming up. And you're like, let's see how they can do it. And nobody can do it. No one can. There was that. Did you see the Mopop had like a tribute to Alice in Chains show where all these bands did covers of Alice in Chains, like Mastodon. Yeah. No one should ever do Wood or Man in the Box. Like there's those vocals that there's no one's ever gonna ever be able to do to get to those notes and that stuff. And it was at that Mad Season tribute show where it made me realize and go back and listen to pay more attention to Lane's vocals. But no one sings like this. There's nobody who can
No.
hold these notes or even compare to it. But it's crazy, right? It's crazy that Seattle in the same period of time, they're all kind of similar age range. That you have all these, and Sean Smith is another one where you're just like he's just this totally unique tone and sound, and it's there's something in the water. I don't know, or particular that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, when I came and visited Seattle and getting to know a lot of these musicians and stuff, and just hearing them, and then just the stuff they're putting, it is absolutely absurd how much good music comes out of the Pacific Northwest. I don't know how it's done, but it is absolutely phenomenal. The talent that is out there for sure.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it is crazy. I had this opinion a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but we were talking about. We have a show coming up in December. We're gonna be doing the top 10 greatest American rock bands of all time, and it sparked a conversation of the greatest American lead singer of all time. And I've always been firm that I have one in mind. Like, it's just an easy decision. This person's voice will stand the test of time. He's been in multiple groups. He's put out songs that really hit home, but he's got a voice that just cannot be replicated. And I think it's Chris Cornell. And I love Pearl Jam.
yeah,
Eddie Vedder's up there, but there is something magnificently special about how Chris's range, which he
yeah.
could, I mean, was just, it was beautiful, and I think that's another one that was very underappreciated in my opinion. I mean, he was very much more popular than Sean Smith or even Alice in Chains with Soundgarden and stuff. But there was something. God, Chris Cornell was
Well, even just not only did he have that crazy range, it's when he's like just singing a verse, and he's not in that range. He's just sort of talking. Even just sort of his mellow verse vocals are he's. I often think, like, when I try and think of what the Seattle sound is, or like who when you think of all the grunge bands and Kurt Cobain and all that stuff, I think Chris Cornell really is probably one of the pillars of that whole sound, because not only of his vocals and but his songwriting. I
mm,
mean, that Soundgarden sound and I think people give credit to Chris Cornell and to Soundgarden for being a part of that whole Seattle thing, but I feel like, to me, that Seattle sound is the Melvins and that early late '80s Seattle grungy, that heavy guitar. And I know that people don't like that word grunge, but I mean, punk rock is punk rock. The grunge thing got labeled grunge. That's what it is. Whatever. But I think when I think of that Seattle, that heavy, dirgy sound, I think of sort of the Melvins, like Lysol and those records, and Bullhead, and then I think of Chris Cornell, and I think those are sort of the foundations of that Seattle sound. Some people would say it's going back to the Sonics and that stuff, but when I think of that heavy rock Pacific Northwest sound, and Chris Cornell is, I think, heavily responsible for formulating that and kind of giving shape to it. I think more so than people give credit to. Than when people think of that '90s Seattle thing, it's Kurt Cobain and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and that sort of stuff. But I don't know who I would think is my favorite singer, because it's tough, because there's something about, if we're going strict vocal, just vocals, like the best vocal, that's one thing. But then there's something to be said for sort of the charisma of a frontman. There's
sure.
something to be said for, Eddie has a really great way of kind of interacting with the crowd and connecting with them, other than just having this great vocal range. Whereas you could have somebody like Maynard from Tool, who has put himself off the front of the stage and is back in the shadows and isn't doing that thing where he's really talking to people and connecting with people, but his vocal range is like nobody else. His voice is like nobody else's. But there's something about that, the difference in those dynamics of those bands. There's something about when people go see Pearl Jam and Eddie is chatty, or he's particularly, he's connecting with people. There's something about the charisma, or like Josh Homme, like, has a swagger and a charisma, or Jack White does. There's something to you. Maybe you don't have the best voice, but if you can command people's attention. You know, that's a whole other thing. Because like Mark Lanigan's one of my all-time favorite vocalists ever. I went to the Showbox when he was playing with the Gutter Twins, and him and Eddie are the only people that I've had this happen to. Where you're going to the Showbox and you're sitting in there, and the Gutter Twins are coming out, and Lanigan's vocal starts, and it's that glass gargled, grumbly voice, and it gives you chills because it's so bassy. And it was three people. Chuck D was the other one. Chuck D was at Public Enemies at the Showbox, and that tone was so deep, it hit you when they came through the speakers. And then when I was the first time at the warehouse, when Pearl Jam got to practice, when I was first working there, which was just surreal to be in your office and Pearl Jam's playing. Ed came in and was just doing some sort of humming thing, like kind of for Of the Girl, because it was right when Binaural came out. And just that baritone, that voice filling the room, like it even kind of gives me chills now, because in the moment it gives you chills. Like, dude, that voice is fucking insane. And it was Mark Lanigan and Vedder and Chuck D, but those are all deep baritone voiced guys, you know. And so there's something about those voices that hit you in your chest somewhere, and you know, it's impressive.
No, it is interesting how they're all different in its own sense too. While they're all, you know, and that's what's cool about it. And that's what's good about, like, you know, just music, and it's how we're all so different. But let me ask you this, because now that we're on a topic that none of these topics were what I thought this conversation to go to, but I'm really glad, because this is turning into an interesting conversation. But you know, talking about the greatest American bands of all time, who in your mind do you think is one of the greatest American bands of all time?
The greatest American bands of all time. I mean, I'm not that well versed in, you know, it would all be probably bands that I grew up with. You know, if I think about American bands, if you think about like Tom Petty, or if you're going further back and you're getting, you know, there's some probably, or like The Band, you know, or there's probably a whole bunch of bands that I would be missing or not thinking about. But who's the best American band?
And there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, because
I know.
And that's the cool thing about it, like that we're looking for. I'm looking forward to the shows, because like everyone's gonna have different opinions. Like, you know, and I've already told mine. Mine's the Ramones. I still think the Ramones are one of the greatest American bands of all time, because they created an entire genre of music. You know, they created a movement, a punk movement, and a simplification of music that really caused this ripple wave that followed through to create different things. And no, yeah, the Ramones will always be my favorite American band of all time, just for the fact that, like, first of all, I love the Ramones, but there was just something so special about them.
That's a good answer. That's what I'm saying. I wasn't even thinking of the Ramones, but I mean, again, it almost comes back to the criteria of the singer. Like, you could have just a great singer who's got a great voice but doesn't have a good stage presence. You could have a great American band that, like the Ramones, that, you know, changed or altered things. But would their shows? I remember seeing the Ramones open for Pearl Jam back in '95, and I don't think I'd ever seen them before. And that's a great, fun show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, all that stuff, and it's just in your face. And how long's the show? A half hour, 45 minutes. They played like 30 songs, you know, something in this short period of time. But then I would think, like, for me, if you're going to be the best American band, you'd have to be great live too. Not saying the Ramones weren't, but I mean, you'd have to be able to be. So I'm trying to think of the bands that I've seen where I'm like, man, that was one of the best. Those are their live shows are fantastic. I mean, Pearl Jam's great in that sense, because their shows are so different every night from show to show. I mean, that to me would be a great band. And criteria would be, is your live tour a totally different thing? Because we've all been to shows where the band plays the same set every night, and it's, you know, they're cued to their lighting and they're cued to their set design, and they don't stray from it, and they do the same thing. And that seems super boring. That seems like it's far more impressive when you see bands. Or like, I think Jack White was saying, when he goes out and plays solo, but he's with this other band, he plays with a male band and a all-female band, and they don't have a set list. They don't know what they're going to do. And I think Fugazi did that too, where they would just do whatever. That's
another band.
Fugazi would be that would be a band, American band, that I would think probably wouldn't be high on the list. It would probably be super low on most people. If you did like a Rolling Stone top 10 American bands, Fugazi probably wouldn't make the top 10. But I would think, to me, that band is sort of the idea of the true independent we did everything
On our
ourselves.
own,
We
yeah.
didn't use record labels. We didn't have merchandise. It was just about music and nothing else. And in my opinion, those records are fantastic.
They are.
And they're one of those bands too, where like the argument, the last Fugazi record to me is one of, I think, my Desert Island records. I think that record is such a fantastic work of music and arrangement and songwriting. And for this to come from out of, you know, Minor Threat and just this thrashy punk stuff to get to this much more complex and much more musical and much more rich and interesting that became like the end, those last few Fugazi records and stuff like that. Like that would be in my running for that answer to that question. But I'd have
Yeah.
to I'd have to look at a list. I'd have to be like, oh right, these guys and these guys. And, oh, I forgot about these guys. You know?
Well, don't you worry. You'll be getting an email in November to get me that list, so you'll have plenty of time to be a part of that whole thing. But it is, you know, Fugazi great. And I know Brad's gonna give me shit. I still think Kiss is up there. I mean, Kiss, you know,
Kiss, yeah, Kiss. That would be one of those. That's a monster American band.
Brad disagrees totally, but and then he's.
But that's a monster American band.
Yeah, it really is. It is. They're great, and for some people, and some people not. Some people like Nickelback. Some people like Kiss. It is what it is.
I don't spin Kiss records, but I can appreciate what they did, and I could see how if you were a kid who was 9 years, 10 years, 11, 12 years old, the theatrics and the makeup would be totally captivating. I mean, it would absolutely capture your attention, and the pyrotechnics. Like, I absolutely get why that would work for those kids. If that was brand new, if you'd never seen that before, you would just be like, oh my God, I went to that would be such an experience and such a thing. I get why it had the hooks that it did to people, but it's not I don't spin Kiss records. If a Kiss song comes on the radio, I'm not turning it off though. I'm gonna turn it up and crank it, but I'm not I'm not looking through my music to be like, oh, I should listen to some Kiss today, you know, but. Oh, speaking of Fugazi, there's somebody did a mashup of Wu-Tang, a Wu-Tang record. I think and Fugazi, and it's called 13 Chambers. If you go on YouTube, I think they have it on iTunes.
Really?
It's so good. It is so good. It's going on my list. Yeah, at first it just made me want to listen to Fugazi. I would listen to it because it's mashing up, and you'd hear the Fugazi riffs and some of their vocals, and I'd be like, I just want to go listen to Fugazi. Now when I listen to Fugazi records, I'm like, I got to go listen to that, the 13 Chambers, the Wu-Tang Fugazi mashup. I think it's the same thing as like when the Grey album, when somebody mashed up the Beatles with Jay-Z. Yeah. But the Fugazi Wu-Tang record is it's a party. Like I have a pep rally mix. Like whenever I want to get like hyped up and I'm stoked, I'm feeling good, and it's just like a dance party, I have like a pep rally mix of songs that you probably wouldn't think are on there. But that 13 Chambers album is a huge part of my pep rally. And if I was gonna have people over and we were gonna have drinks and hang out, I'd be cranking that record. It's so good. It's so much fun.
Now you got me intrigued. I want to see the Brad Klausen pep rally playlist. Now that's something that needs to be out in the world. See, look, you have plenty of stuff you should be posting on social media. That shit's interesting. Well, here, this is, Matt's asking, what are you currently listening to when it comes to music right now?
It's sad because it's probably the same answer that I have all the time. But I listen to Tool constantly. I listen to the Queens of the Stone Age all the time. But lately I've been listening to I listen to Big Business a lot, but there's a Melvin's record that they recorded with Big Business called Senile Animal. And that thing's just solid all the way through. That record to me is what the Seattle sound is, even though it came out like in 2006. It's dirty, heavy, loud guitars, but it's all hooks and it's all catchy, and it's that thing that everybody always talks about with the Seattle sound, or like Nirvana, or Dave Grohl said this about Black Hole Sun, is that it's that perfect combination of Black Sabbath and the Beatles. I think that, where it's heavy but it's hooky, it's catchy. That's one of the things that most heavy bands seem to miss, is that you still got to have hooks. You still have to be whistling the tune. It can't just be this super beat you over the head sort of thing, But I've been listening to that Melvin's record. There's a Laura Lynn. I got turned on to her because of her music that she did on True Detective. I think the second season of True Detective. This really spooky ambient reverby guitar stuff that's just fantastic. Laura Lynn, I listen to her from every now and again. And who else have we been listening to a lot lately? Weirdly, this is going to sound maybe lame. I listen to myself. I've been, like I said, I play riffs, and
Hey.
I'll just jam, and I put my phone on and I record it, and then I go back through, and I call it going into the riff mines. Like I'm trying to see if I actually came up with anything that's usable or anything that's good. So
yeah, I don't know who's running the social media behind the scenes right now, but yeah, I'm gonna have to admit I am not a Tool fan at all.
it takes some. It's not for everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea, you know. But like they're one of those bands that is, to me, is just. It's I could have we could talk I could talk about them for like hours. I could talk about for forever. But it's again, it's not
Sure.
everybody's cup of tea. But I mean, Danny Carey is probably one of the that's like, it's like, you know, I don't like Rush. I've never been a Rush fan. But everybody talks about Neil Peart being this amazing, one of the most amazing drummers. I have to take their word for it because I don't ever listen. I mean, I'll hear the Rush songs on the radio and all the songs everybody else knows, but I don't crank them. I don't listen to them. But Tool is one of those bands where Danny Carey, their drummer, is one of, like, there's no talk about like Lane's vocals. There's nobody that drums like Danny Carey. He's an anomaly. You know, it's a whole other different thing with him and drums. But it takes some getting used to, and like I said, some people don't dig it. You know.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know, I was in Myrtle Beach this past weekend for my kid's soccer tournament and had a shirt that said, you know, everyone needs to listen to David Bowie, and some guy's like, no, David Bowie's terrible. Now that's like, you're gonna start a conversation with me. Like, I mean, you know, David Bowie, I think, is probably one of the greatest artists of my lifetime.
Yeah.
In my opinion. You know, and it's like,
yeah, phenomenal.
And it's just like, I'm like, what the? I'm like, it's like the Beatles thing. I'm like, what are you, fucking stupid? Like, everyone has to have at least. There's got to be 5. I can play all of his catalog. You're gonna find 5 songs of his that you like, because he was so different at different points. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
To make a recommendation for you, if you want to hear something, trying to think of something new. Are you in? Have you ever listened to Saint Vincent before?
I know the name. I've seen it on. It's funny. There's a bunch of band names that I'm aware of because I see them on posters.
Sure.
Like Ken. I know Ken Taylor's done Saint Vincent posters, but I've never heard them.
So Saint
I'll check
Vincent.
them out, though.
She's a woman. She's a woman. She's a lead
plays
singer.
guitar,
she's a guitarist.
right?
Oh, she's fucking amazing guitarist live. And what she is, she's kind of like a modern David Bowie, where every album she plays a character. And like this one's very controversial because it's very like she's playing like a very male dominant figure, calling, like, saying, I don't know, it's very interesting. And then one artist that I can't recommend enough is Paul and the Tall Trees. I mean, it's not heavy rock music, but it's a guy out of New York, now lives in Texas, and his music.
Paul and the Tall Trees.
Yeah, fuck, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. I definitely recommend listening.
I will check them out for sure.
Definitely. All right, so now
I said go to get that Fugazi.
Oh, dude, that is on the list. I'm telling you, I'm probably gonna wake up my kids after this is over while playing that. It's funny because my kid, talking about pump up music, like, you know, he's a goalie, so we get him like really pumped up before a game, and he went to a championship this weekend, and he was just killing it. And I'm in the car. I'm like, I got you. He's like, what do you mean I got you? I'm like, I'm gonna put a song on, and I want you to think about this during the whole thing. So I played, you know, Wu-Tang Clan, Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, and I had the thing blasting, and I had these old women in the parking lot walking past me, giving the dirtiest look. But there's my kid in the background, and now also my 5-year-old daughter, by the way, is in the car, and and there they are listening to this in the back, and he had a shutout. So I mean, I guess it worked. You know, Wu-Tang played a little part.
Well, now it's a tradition.
Oh yeah. Well, either that or Rain Wolf. Rain Wolf has been his go-to song for about 3 years now. He blasts Rain Wolf, and he gets really in the movement for that. But yeah, no, Wu-Tang played.
Do you know the song? I can't remember who it's by, but like I only know it because when I was a kid, my mom would drive me to school and we would listen to like 50s radio stations. And you know the song Sugar Shack?
Sugar Shack.
We're going to the Sugar Shack. Boop boop. Boop, 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 boop. That song? You know that song?
No, I don't know. Hold on. Do you know who wrote it?
No, I can't remember who wrote it. But it's this little poppy 50s. I'm sure my face is red from having to sing.
Is this it?
That's it.
It's by Jimmy Glimmer and the Fireballs.
Right, check that. Listen to this song for a second.
Okay.
My dad, when he was in high school, he said this was their pump up song. And I'm like, how is that your pump up song? Like, can you picture a bunch of high school boys in football cranking this and they're like, I don't know if they would have off the radio or how they would have played it, but that's their. I was like, that's your psych up song. That's your.
Oh, they're whistling it to the damn field.
Yeah,
now I'm gonna have that thing stuck in my freaking head.
The other team was quaking in their boots.
Oh man, there's a remix of it.
Hey.
Well, I like the other one better.
It's got to have the little whistle, whistle, the hook whistle. But like that's crazy. Every time I was like, wait, you guys would get psyched to play full contact football in the locker room. You'd be listening to Sugar Shack. Like how? Oh, the times have changed.
Oh shit, that's great. I'm adding that to my playlist. I'm gonna play that. Like, hey Brady, I got you.
You should wake your kids up with that every morning, and then
I will
hate
totally
that
wake
song.
Oh yeah, God, that whistle. God, yeah, that.
Yeah.
Oh man, talking pop culture. Have you seen anything recently that you liked, or?
Like everybody else in the lockdown and all that stuff. Queen's Gambit was good. I saw that.
That was
I thought
great.
That was pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a slow burn. That first episode took a little while to get going there.
Yeah.
To establish her whole character and all that stuff. And what else? I think there's a zillion things that I saw. We watched it again last night for probably like the fourth time, but Michelle Wolf's stand-up special on Netflix, I think it's probably one of the better stand-up specials that's come out in a long time.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet. It's really good, huh?
Joke show. Yeah. And again, like comedians are like bands, to each their own. Like some people I can't stand that comedian. Dude, like, she makes fun of herself for having this big, high, shrill voice. But so even the audio is that she has kind of a nasally, shrilly high voice that maybe might bug some people, but she's a great joke writer and it's a great special. I'm trying to think of what else, like movies I've seen. What about you? What have you seen?
So I saw the new Fast and Furious. Like
Fast and Furious 22. What episode? What movie is it at? 10, 12?
I think this is 11.
Yeah.
I think it's 10 or 11. I enjoy it. Listen, if I can go to a movie and they can convince me that they're going to drive a car into outer space, it's kind of fun. So
that's the premise, is that they're going to drive a car into outer space?
They drive a car into outer space, yeah, and that's how they save the world.
Wow, it's got to be tough when you're sitting around in the writer's room and for like Fast and Furious 10, and you're like, what do we like? I talk about coming up with how do I come up with another Pearl Jam poster concept? If you're like, we've already done 9 of these. So what's the plot of this one? Like, shit.
Have you heard what Universal actually kind of like thought about thinking about doing? So the new Jurassic Park comes out next year. The licensing, the groups that own the Fast and Furious license own the Jurassic Park license. They have actually thought about merging those together, like Alien versus Predator, for a movie. So you might see Vin Diesel hunting down a T-Rex in a Honda Civic.
You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say any movie that involves the Jurassic Park franchise is the premise will be that they thought it would all be fine, but it turns out the dinosaurs weren't fine and they got out of control. Like every Jurassic Park movie, I'm like, let me guess, the dinosaurs don't do what they're supposed to do and there's a problem. The dinosaurs get out, or something happens. But this time, there's Chris Pratt.
That's right, Chris Pratt. You can't mess with Chris Pratt. What else? I saw the new Quiet Place 2, which I thought was phenomenal. I
haven't seen the first one.
Oh, God. Well, funny story. So I saw the first one at an Alamo Draft House, but it's a quiet movie. So I ordered popcorn and a drink for the movie starts. I couldn't eat or drink anything because if you make a noise, everyone's looking at you. It was that.
Right.
It was nuts. No, second one's really good. What else have I seen?
Get to the bottom of your soda.
Oh yeah, it's like shut up.
Yeah.
God, like the fucking guy in the front with the soda, fucking ruined the movie.
Chawing on popcorn.
Oh yeah, it was fucking. It's crazy. And then the other thing I did see recently that was really good. It was I'm big into horror movies. I love horror movies. Like, I think it's just like the morbid side of me. Like, I like being put in a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable, like in a movie and stuff. And there's a movie called The Dark Place, and it's about this older couple that the husband's dying and the kids come to the house and all this weird shit starts happening to him. It's really dark and twisted. I don't know. That was a really cool movie. So
Yeah.
But I know I'm looking forward to the new Black Widow movie on Friday. And then I'll watch a colossal mess that is known as Space Jam 2 next week with my kids. Because that just looks like it is just everything's thrown into that movie. I mean, it just looks like...
I saw the first one I remember seeing the first one in the theater. And with the Michael Jordan one, I can remember being in probably in my Marina Del Rey by my dad's house watching that first one. And the whole premise of that's ridiculous. I mean, imagine you're Michael Jordan, like, Bugs Bunny, right? We're going to put you in a movie with him and you're going to play with the thing. Like, why would you agree to that? Why would you say yes to that movie? I would not say yes to that.
That is an interesting concept.
Yeah, who knows what's going to work and who's not going to work. I mean, there's probably tons of actors out there who passed on movies that became like Forrest Gump or became, E.T. or something. Where you're like, that's not. I feel that way about Bitcoin. Anytime people bring up Bitcoin, I remember when Bitcoin was $1, and I was like, digital currency. We already have digital currency. Like, no one gets paid. You get a direct deposit. Like when people buy posters from me, it's digital. Your digital bank account numbers drop and mine go up. Like, there's no change in money. And so when I saw Bitcoin, I was like, digital currency. We already have that. And it was $1. And I think I had some money that I'm not an investor or anything, but I had invested in something else that didn't pan out at all. And had I taken like $100 and bought 100 Bitcoin, we probably wouldn't be talking right now. I'd be in a yacht somewhere.
I don't got time for that fucking guy.
I would have checked out and been like, I'm out of society so long. But I think also is that I don't think I would have been able to ride the Bitcoin wave all the way to where it got. If I bought it when it was $1 and it became $100, I probably would have sold it all and been like, I made a chunk of money right there, and then it would have gone to. So I don't think I would have been able to stick it out all the way till it got to what it was.
No, and I don't understand.
I also didn't think people would use email. I also, when I first heard about email, I was like, no one's going to use this. This is stupid. So.
Not everyone does. God, it's fucking insanity. Oh, there is a show that I did watch recently that was really good. There's a show called The Race Around the World. And what the concept is it's 2 people, 5 teams of 2 people, and they're from England, and they have no idea where they're going, and they go to the northern part of Mexico, and they have to get to the most furthest city in the South America, which is the most furthest city in there, and they are given the exact amount of money of the plane ticket from if they were to fly from where they are in Mexico to the furthest point, but they are not allowed to take planes, and they have to find ways to get to the checkpoints going all the way down, and it takes them, I think, 60 days to get down there, and it's this like whole like all these people like trying to get there, but they also can like stop and see things, but then they might lose some time on the race. But it's like, do I stop and see the Mayans, or do I go to Rio de Janeiro? Do I go faster? And it's a really cool concept of a program. And I don't know, I'm big into travel, so that was a pretty cool show. That was called Race Around the World. I really dug that.
No, I think it's funny. I was thinking like there's been a bunch of bands that I've been listening to and probably stuff I've been watching, and now put on the spot, I can't think of. Like, I'm struggling to think of, like, because I just like everybody else, I'm consuming content all the time, and with all the streaming service, and there's constantly new shows coming out all the time. I did start rewatching Arrested Development, and that show's brilliant for like. That's one of those shows where it's crazy, where like that used to be back in the day where you'd have 26, 22 episodes. And you definitely see it get stretched too far, because there's parts in that show where you're like, all right, it's not as funny as it was for like the first 10 or 12 episodes, But yeah, what else have I seen? There was a Netflix thing with Duncan Trussell that was animated. The guy who did story. What's that weirdo animated cartoon? I can't remember, but it was Duncan Trussell talking to people, and they animated it, and it's super surreal and trippy and weird, and it's on Netflix, and I can't remember the name of it, but that was really interesting. I'm hoping they make more of those, but I'm guessing because of the amount of animation that goes into it, probably takes a significant amount of time to do it. And I'm also a sucker for, like, you talk about kids. watching kids movies. I'm a total sucker for Pixar movies. Like that's almost one of my favorite things to do. Like if I've just finished a big project, a poster or something, I want to go watch a big Pixar movie, or I want to watch a big sort of animated CGI type of movie because it's so inspiring. Like those movies are so fantastic, and the artwork, which is funny when you watch the DreamWorks ones though, like by Sony, they don't seem as good. Like
No,
my lady and I always talk about, we're like, this is a Sony. It's not. Pixar has the character development better, the stories are better, like, and so I do love a good Pixar movie, and I think that Into the Spider-Verse was probably
that was great.
one of my. I thought that was probably the best treatment of any of the comic book movies because I grew up reading comics and I'm a total comic nerd, or I was. And all the new Marvel movies and stuff like that, my gripe with them is they make them too real. Is they make them seem like the graphics and the visuals are amazing. Like the things that they can do, it's unbelievable, the stuff they can do. But I really like Sin City. I like that. Like when I was a kid and I read comic books, it was the idea that it's fantasy, like and the panels in the comic book and all this artwork, and even though Spider-Man's fighting in New York City, I don't think I ever really thought of it as like, oh, that's actually New York City. It was this fantastical animated drawn thing. And I feel like all the Marvel movies put things into the real world, and they put them and I think the Spider-Verse movie totally visually it captured what it's like to look at a moving comic book. They had like halftone dots in it. They had things that were out of registration. It was so, to me, I want every Marvel movie to be a comic book come to life, not people in tactical gear who look like they're real and they look like they're in real life and this is all really like the Black Panther. Did you see Black Panther?
I did see Black Panther.
The opening credit scene had like all this purple sand, and they were kind of telling you the history of the story, and it was this amazing CGI work for all this. And I was like, I want to see the whole movie in that. I want to see the whole movie in that purple sand, or I would love to see like a Wolverine movie when he's in the whole samurai part of his story when he's in Japan, done like Into the Spider-Verse, but directed by like Quentin Tarantino. Like if you could have somebody direct a visual comic book, gory, rated R, movie, I think Marvel is missing out on, and DC are missing out on how you make a comic book look like the Spider-Verse was great, and Sin City was that way too, where you're like, not only is it just a movie, it's visually stunning, because that's what comic books are. And it's I wish those movies were more, they took more chances visually, and they broke the boundaries of what you can do with that stuff, because they're amazing. They look amazing. Thanos looks like a big giant purple guy, and the Hulk is like, and everybody looks amazing, and there's these big battle scenes, and it's, and like Doctor Strange, like all of those visuals are super amazing. But imagine the Doctor Strange movie if it was done like Into the Spider-Verse, and it had just this animated element where you could do things that you can't do. And I wish they would do that more. I wish they would really trick out those Marvel movies and make them just saturated with color and just do things that you don't see in regular movies.
Yeah, because even like the latest Wolverine movie that came out 2-3 years ago, like I cried at the end because he died. It just felt too real to me. I was like, I shouldn't be crying in a fucking comic book movie, but there's Wolverine dying, and I'm like, why? This is so. And he's like holding the girl's hand, finds it as his daughter. I'm like, this is. And I'm sitting with my wife, and I'm in the movie, and listen, I cried everything. I'm really like, I'm the emotional.
It's the music. Usually the music. It's the music that gets you to cry. The worst is on an airplane. If you're watching, if something happens with the air on the airplane, and you're watching some movie, all of a sudden you'll like. I find myself tearing up more watching movies on airplanes. I'm like, why am I getting emotional right now? And it's always the music. I think that's one of the things that people don't understand. Anytime you're watching a movie and you're about to cry, it's the music that's swelling and building and putting you in that headspace.
Bastards with this damn music.
I always think about with that Wolverine movie. The little girl in that, the little young Wolverine at S, is awesome. She's so good in that.
So good. And they never.
But I just imagine being on set and telling that little girl, like, okay, you're gonna stab this man in the neck with knives, and you're gonna rip his head off. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And she's like, what, 10? How old is that little girl?
Oh,
like,
she's just
doing graphic, gory violence where she's going to set every day, and like if she's reading whatever when you're an actor and you go, what are we doing today? You're like, oh, you're gonna murder like 20 people. like that's got to be a weird day for that little girl.
Oh shit, yeah, that was good stuff. Before we get off the topic of movies, because I don't want to keep you too long, but did you see and I bring this up to a lot of artists, did you see the new Justice League, this Zack Snyder version?
No, I didn't. I did see Birds of Prey. I did see
Birds?
that. It's funny. It's it's so much like the Mac versus IBM thing, which maybe isn't as big as it was back in the day, the Apple versus Microsoft thing. But it is this nerdy guy thing of Marvel versus DC. When I was a kid, I never read DC. I saw those comic books, but for some reason, I never picked up any of them. I didn't want to read any of them. I felt like in the same way that like they're like the Sony DreamWorks and Marvel's like Pixar. Like I feel like Marvel was just better. Like the artwork seemed better to me, the characters seemed better to me. So I was snobby and I never crossed. I don't care about Batman. I've seen all those Batman movies and that stuff, but I never cared about the DC universe. But it's funny too, talking about like comic books. Is I think that's what I got into poster design, because every poster to me is a comic book cover. You have the type of the band name or the comic, and it's one image, right? And so that was my favorite thing about comics, was that marquee cover, and I loved it when the characters on the comic book cover like knocked into the letters.
Yeah.
If it was X-Men and all of a sudden they bumped into, there's an explosion or something happened. I liked that design and that stuff. So I think comic books had a huge role in me becoming the artist that I am. So I get kind of nerdy and my lady didn't read comic books. Every time we go see a Marvel movie, I leave just pissed off because they've changed characters, they've changed chronology. I'm like, that character would have never been that age to that thing. And she's like, I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was good. So anytime we see a comic book movie where I don't read the comic, I can't sit there and tear it apart for how they've changed the characters. But like X-Men, I can sit there and be like, Iceman would have never been younger than Cyclops or never been younger than Wolverine or anything. It's an unfortunate aspect of being a comic book nerd. Is now as an adult you can be a middle-aged man who nerds out over how Marvel has changed your comic book heroes.
I can understand that. I was more of a DC guy. I do love. I
didn't see Justice League though.
I love it. I don't know, but I'm a big DC guy. I just hope for the best. I'm one of those. I think I'm hoping that everything works out, but it's just one of those things. Like Warner Brothers has no idea what they're doing with the property. But I like Birds of Prey. I'm excited about Suicide Squad. I think James Gunn's going to do a good job for that. That comes out next month, and I don't know. I like those movies, but.
Yeah, I like the saturation and all those. The Justice League movies like have a really cool visual. Like there's this richness of colors and there is like the Suicide Squad. There's definitely, and like Birds of Prey has like a stylistic look to it that I think is a cool visual.
Yeah, Zack Snyder, who did Justice League and did a couple of other ones. He's just got an eye for like he did that, like he did the Dawn of the Dead. He has like an eye for like the way he captures things with lighting and stuff. He's really good at that kind of.
But that's speaking of like creative projects, like making movies has to be just miserable when you're a director and you have a vision, and then you go back to the producer, the executives, or the movie production company, and they're like, "This doesn't test well with audience. We want you to change this. We want you to change that. This, that, and the other thing." I was listening to an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and he was talking about in Reservoir Dogs, everybody wanted him to cut out the scene where the ears cut off scene of the cop, where he tortures the cop, and there's that stuck in the middle with you, that whole scene. Mm-hmm. Like that would be really hard if you're making a work of art. And it's a hard part of being a poster designer when a band will be like, you create this thing and then they go change this or change that, or do something like that. Those moments are always a little bit tricky, and you get a little diva-ish when you're like, don't tell me how to make my thing, So I can't imagine how it is for like directors of these big, huge, multi-million-dollar movies where there's all these other invested interests, and these people get to come in and go, change this, change that. We don't like this. Change the ending, and you don't get to stick to your original. I would imagine being a movie director, you're probably much more of a psychologist and trying to convince people to accept your vision and to try and make people think it was their idea to begin with. Like, oh, great idea, we should do that.
Well, there's movie directors, and there's Tommy Wiseau, who goes out and buys all of his own shit and makes his own movie with three different kind of cameras. Oh God, I'm gonna watch that when I go to bed tonight. I'm assuming you saw Disaster Artist, correct?
I've seen little snippets of it here, but I never saw, and I've never seen the actual movie though.
You never saw The Room?
No.
Oh, dude, hold on.
I feel like I'd have to watch it first and then watch the Disaster Artist.
Not necessarily.
Or do you do it the other way? Watch it reverse?
Yeah. Listen, The Room, you either have to be with some people to get a kick out of it, because it is the worst movie of all time. But it is
Right.
so fucking hilarious. But The Disaster Artist is absolutely genius. It's amazing movie. Me and my wife ended up seeing it with the cast a couple of years ago. They showed it at the local Alamo Draft House, and it was just, because she never saw The Room, she only saw that movie, and she loved it. But no, The Room is like, if you and your girl want to like just like going into it knowing this movie's gonna be terrible, we have to look past some shit. It is absolutely genius, but it is not. You have to buy the DVD. He refuses to release it digitally. Which is interesting. I don't know. He's a crazy.
That is interesting.
He's an interesting character because, yeah, you got to watch The Disaster Artist. You got to watch Rolling Through. It is amazing. Yeah, just the fact that he was like, you know what, we're gonna make our own movie. They go to the cameras like, all right, what do you want to do it? 77 millimeter, 35 millimeter. Do you want to do digital and stuff? He goes, I'll buy all of them. What do you mean you're gonna buy all of them? Yeah, I'm gonna shoot it in all three. So they had to custom make this rig with all three cameras, and every scene was shot with all three cameras. So the whole movie was shot in 3 different film types. It was crazy. I mean, he spent so much money to make that movie. It was.
I was gonna say, where would you get all the money to do that?
So that's the thing. There's so much. There's like the Tommy Wiseau. There's so much unknown about him. Like, we don't even know how old he really is. Like, you gotta watch it. I'm telling you, this is a movie that is just absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, I've seen little clips here and there, but
Yeah.
I never sat down and watched it. Yeah,
You
I'll check it out.
Definitely. Also, I want to bring up something for everyone tuning in right now. So coming up in September, we are doing a benefit for the Project Matters. The Project Matters is an organization out of New Jersey that was created by a woman named Karen. Karen's son passed away a couple years ago, unfortunately. He was a musician. She wanted to carry her son's legacy going forward, so she created the Project Matters. And what the Project Matters is they raise money to be able to give children instruments and music lessons and emotional help for children that need it, so that they don't have to struggle, whether they're the musician, artist, or anything. Because of COVID, like many of us, it struggled a little bit, and she wasn't able to do the things she was hoping to do because financially she was struck. We are hosting an event called Shorestock in September, the night before See Her Now Festival, where we're raising money for the Project Matters at the Saint. We're going to have musical acts. Leading up to it, we got this great group of musicians, artists that are going to be painting one of one custom ukuleles. The front's going to be painted or designed in a way that's unique to itself. They're going to be auctioned off, and all the money from that is going to go directly to the Project Matters. Brad Klausen, I messaged him. I said, listen, would you want doing this? And he was one of the first artists to message back really quickly and say yes. And I want to thank you tremendously for doing this, because all the money is going to an amazing organization, and this woman is ecstatic. Like, she is blown away by everything coming out of it. So if you are a Brad Klausen fan, definitely keep an eye out for that. You can find out more information by going to www.thetouringfanlive.com and clicking on Shorestock up in the top right corner, and more information will be posted, and more images will be posted, and the auction links for the ukuleles will be going up at the end of next month. So, Brad, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I'm excited to see what you're going to do.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see what I'm going to do too, because I'm actually super terrified about it. I can't even believe I agreed to do it, because anytime people ask me to mess with paint or do stuff, I don't get along well with paint, and it's terrifying. Like, I got the ukulele. It came in the mail, and I was just like, oh, this is so real now. I got to figure out what am I gonna do? How am I gonna paint this thing? What do I want to do for it? And then how do I do it? Like, so it'll be, and my, like I said, my girlfriend's family, they were just here for like 4th of July and stuff like that. And her mom is sort of an artist and a painter, and she had an interesting idea about what I might be able to do to get some sort of art on there. And so I'll be curious. I'm excited to see what I come up with too, but I'm also like totally terrified and totally scared. And every time I look at that ukulele, I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to do with that.
Listen, you're not we have 12 artists doing this, and they're all saying the same thing. But I think, it's going to a good cause, no matter.
Yeah,
Listen,
that's why I agreed to do it. I was like, if I can help raise some money for charity, then I'll put myself in an uncomfortable place and see if I can get a cool looking ukulele. But it'll be something. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I can't wait. I mean, there, I was Tyler Stout, who's also doing this. I was messaging him, and he's like, he is the. I don't know if you know Tyler at all. But
I know I never met him, but I know Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler is he's a super awesome guy, and he's one of those people that has no idea how famous he really is. He has no concept of his fan base. He knows, but he's like, oh, this is great. He's just so happy with life, and he's he's a camp right now. He's a camp counselor at a campsite with his wife for his kids in somewhere in Washington. And he's like, yeah, just shoot me, send me a ukulele, I'll figure something out. And he's just like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with it. It's just this. I can't wait to see what people do with it. This is really exciting. We have a lot of cool people doing this. But yeah.
Well, who else besides Tyler Stout? Can you say other people? Can you say the other artists?
Oh yeah, I have the whole list right here. Let me pull it up here.
I was gonna say, it's like the poster thing. It's good to know the other people you're competing against. Not that it's competition, but there is no. Oh shit! I got to do good.
Let's see. I got the list right here. I'm pulling it up as we speak. Bless you. Jim Mazza, Ward Sutton,
Jim.
Arno Kiss, Kate Neckel, and Eric Lilova are going to be doing a piece together. Bailey Race, John Gloom, Brian Meth, Jules Muck, Steve Thomas, Damian Fulton, Tyler Stout, and I have one more artist that I haven't announced yet. That it is, if he can fit it into the schedule, then he'll do it. And I should know more probably next week. So right now, we had a bunch of ukuleles donated to us. I've purchased a bunch of ukuleles, and then we're just shipping them out as they come along. But it's a clever little concept. And then Dan Mumford has designed the T-shirt for the event. We'll be showcasing that
awesome.
next week. Yeah, it's been great.
I love Dan's stuff.
Dan is an amazing guy, and him, and it was interesting. Dan's been on the show quite a few times, and I have another show called X Gets to Square with Bailey Race. He's another poster artist, and we just do this pop culture show once a month. And we have another artist on, and we just talk pop culture. We just talk about just random pop culture shit. And he's been on a few times, and I just was like, hey, would you mind designing T-shirts? Like, yeah, just show me a concept, and I'll get it to you by August. And then last week he sends me it, and it came out so great. And he came up with a bunch of different color ways, and I was just blown away. I'm just blown away that how awesome people are, because you look up to people, and I admire your art. You're definitely someone I look up to. I'm not an artist myself, but I'm like, damn, this is fucking amazing what this is. It's how does he do this? I'm just a big fan of yours, and I'm like, for you to be like, hey, yeah, come on the show, we'll talk. That's impressive me. It just shows you're not an asshole. And then you're like, hey, yeah, I'll paint a ukulele. I'm like, well, this guy's really not an asshole. I'm like, it's just cool. It just makes me appreciate you more, and I'm really grateful for that, especially.
Thank you.
Especially, I think once we're going to be interviewing Karen from the Project Matters in the next few weeks, and I think once people put a face to this and hear her story, yeah, man, it's pretty. I couldn't imagine losing one of my kids, and the fact that she came through with it to kind of just continue her son's legacy is just I can guarantee you I'm going to cry like the biggest bitch live on Facebook. So be prepared for that. But Brad, I know that you have your Instagram is brad.klausen now, because you forgot the password of your old one.
No, they just switched it. It randomly got I have when I go to it says remember your password, forget your password.
Yeah.
It goes, we sent it to an email that's not my email, that has never been associated with me, and then I'll get an email from Instagram for this info. It's a totally different address that says info something. So my email address is info@artillerydesign.com. It has nothing to do with me, and so somehow my account on Instagram got switched with somebody else's, because recently I got an email saying, it looks like you're trying to change your password, and it was for this other thing. I'm like, I'm not doing anything with that. So I don't know what happened in the Instagram world there, but I'm trying to get better at being, like I said, I'm at my same saturation point with Instagram, where I'm at 12 posts or something like that. And I need to try and break past that and utilize it more. It's not intuitive. It's not intuitive to me. Like I said, I don't wake up and I think the actual problem is I'm on a desktop still. I use my desktop for all of my design work. I have a Wacom tablet screen over here. And I have always used a desktop computer for being a graphic designer, and I never used a laptop. I never took a laptop. I would occasionally I'd borrow my girlfriend's laptop if I was traveling or something like that. But I've always been just landlocked on my desktop and never made the transition to laptops. And I think everybody who uses their phone now, like I don't use my phone like most people do. I think they've transitioned from the laptop to the phone because the phone is basically just a laptop. You know, I wish people would stop calling it a phone. It's a computer that has an app that is a phone. I mean, like right now, you and I are talking. This is a phone call. It's happening on my computer. And, you know, my phone is just a smaller version of this. I think people call them smartphones, but no, it's a computer. It's just and how many people actually use the phone app on their pocket computer? Yeah. But so Instagram and those things are designed to not really work on desktops. You have to get like a third party, you know, thing so you can use your desktop to do stuff. And so the old curmudgeon old man in me just gets frustrated that I can't just use my desktop and I'm being forced to use my phone. And so it becomes more of like a task that I have to do rather than and I don't look at Instagram either. So I'll go look at artists that I like once in a while, but I'm not looking at it every day. So I'm not thinking about it. And so it's just detrimental to me that because I don't use it, I'm not maximizing the exposure, like the platform that I could have to get my workout to people or to advertise this. Like you sent me the thing to advertise this and I was going to put it on my Instagram page. And then I said, I couldn't get it onto my phone email. So I was like, fuck it. I don't care. I'm not going to do it. You know,
I know.
But
I was waiting all day. I'm like, hey, you know, we have quite a few people that work on the marketing side of the show, like that build. We have people that build graphics, people that work on algorithms, people work on hashtags. Like we have this really solid group of people that do things, and we help other people with it too. And we're all day. I'm like, yeah, Brad said he's gonna share it. We're waiting. I'm like, well, Brad must have got busy. I don't know what's going on here, but it's all good.
I did. I always thought about it. I said, like I said, it's just like I'm just a Luddite when it comes to all this technology and stuff. And I don't use my phone. Like I get kind of in trouble because like my girlfriend, I don't take it with me all the time. Like as a guy, you remember a period in time in your life where all you needed was your car keys, your house keys, your keys in your wallet. When you left the house, like got my keys in my wallet. That's all I need, right? And then it became keys, wallet, phone. And now you're like, we can't go anywhere without our phones. And then the phones got kind of smaller and then they got bigger. And I got one of those brick iPhones. And you look at everybody today, like you can see guys in their jeans, they have a worn rectangle in their front pocket where you can see where they keep their phone all the time, stuff like that. But so I don't bring my phone with me, and I'll go out to the store or something, and my girlfriend's like, I had tried to call you. You need to take your phone with you when you do stuff. And I have to remind myself to get it, to like, oh, I'm going to go drive 45 minutes. I should probably have my phone. And so I don't use it the way that most people do. And I leave it in the other room. And if you were to text me, I might text you back tomorrow. You'd be like, like, what are you talking? Like, that was something I asked you yesterday. You know? So I'm not. I did think about it. I was like, I want to promote this, me coming on here to talk, and I got it to my 200 people or however many people are on my Instagram page.
We are gonna work on that. We're gonna get you out there. But the cool thing is too. So the show's live right now. If you tuned in late or tuned in at different parts of this, or this was before we lost you during the electrical outage. Don't forget, tomorrow morning this will be a podcast. You can listen to the entire podcast. All you have to do is search the Touring Fan Live on your favorite podcast and platform. You can also go to the SiriusXM app, and if you search Touring Fan Live on the app only, you'll be able to find us. You can download the show there, and don't forget to subscribe and like. And we have this on YouTube as well, so we're everywhere. So after this is live, go to YouTube, go to iTunes, go wherever you want. It will be there'll be some stuff out there, so definitely check that out. But listen, Brad, this conversation went nowhere that I was planning it, which is absolutely fucking fantastic. I feel like I feel like I've learned a lot about you this evening, which is great. I'm gonna have to get you on with Bailey Race at some point for X Gets a Square, and we'll talk pop culture, and we can talk music and stuff, and we can do that down the road. But listen, man,
happy to.
You hang tight. We're going to end this show here. Once again, you can check out Brad Klausen on Instagram. Go to brad.klausen is the Instagram page to follow. On Facebook, you can check him out at Artillery Design /Brad Klausen. He's got a group there. I don't know how much he posts in there because, like I said, he does not like posting stuff. So when he posts, you know how special it really is. So keep an eye out for that, and you can check out his website. Anything for sale right now, Brad, or anything coming up that we should know about?
There is the project that I got, the Mason 54 project, where it's Monk One has this project where there's a game created by Frida Kahlo, artist, way back in the day, where it's called Exquisite Corpse, where one artist draws something and then you fold the piece of paper over so there's only like an inch showing of what they drew, and then you give it to another artist and they take your lines and draw off of it and you fold that, and so you just get this hodgepodge of like 3 artists doing it. And so Monk One has been doing this with a couple. I think I'm like, my print that I'm involved with is the 5th out of maybe there's been 5 or 6, I don't know how many. But it's one color print and you get 3 different artists, and we're all kind of,
wow.
we're given a theme to draw. And mine is with Brandon Hart and Timothy Van Rudden. And
wow.
Timothy is a pencil illustrator who I had never heard of before this, and his work is just ridiculous.
Amazing.
Like, I mean, I was terrified. I was like, nothing's going to make me feel more like the ukulele thing's terrifying, but that's a whole medium that I'm not used to. This is like, I'm going to have my work next to this like master illustrator. And I'm like, so it's just going to make his work is going to just, nothing against Brandon, but Brandon's more of a graphic designer artist like I am. We do more kind of bold line forms and make kind of more graphic things. And Timothy is this like just beautiful pencil illustration artist. And I just feel like we're either going to make his art look fantastic or crappy, because he's going to be bookended by, just by these.
Yeah, check out his stuff on Instagram.
He's
so yes, I'm very familiar with his work. He is absolutely amazing. Check him out on Instagram. When is that coming out?
We're a little bit. I have my piece was the last one, so it's like a horizontal piece. So Brandon did his, then Timothy did his part. Now I'm doing my half. So I got the end. I'm at the end, and so I think it got a little delayed in that aspect, and so I'm a little. So it's a little bit behind where we're supposed to be, but I'm hopefully going to finish my part tonight or the next day, and then I think they'll put them out relatively soon. So I'll make sure I post on my Instagram page when that comes out too. But I'm really looking forward to it, because who knows what this image is going to look like. And if you look up it's MAISON 54, it's all one word, Mason 54. If you look up the other images, I know Monk did one with Emick, and I can't remember the other artists, but they're all crazy. They're all really, really cool. And so that's the first thing coming up. And then I'm working on a print for some people for this video game. And there's a couple of things coming out soon, but those are the most immediate things that are in the clip coming up. So,
all right. Well, listen, guys, you know where to check them out. Once again, I'm Anthony. That is Brad, and I thank you for tuning in. And until next time, thank you for tuning in to the Touring Fan Live.